Hello and welcome to today's episode of Start Being Visible with me, Mildred Talabi. Now, today's episode is a solo one, which means it's going to be just you and me in conversation. I don't have a guest today, but we're going to talk about something that's really important and something that I can totally 1000% relate to on a personal level, and that is how to be visible as an introvert. Now, in all my years of doing this LinkedIn coaching work and teaching and supporting and coaching women how to be visible on LinkedIn, I have had so many women who say, I'm Mildred, I'm an introvert. How does this work for me? I'm not loud, I'm not out there, and I don't particularly feel comfortable being loud and out there. So how can I make this thing work? And I've said, listen, I've got you, girl, because I understand, because I too am an introvert. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions people have, by the way. People think that if you're an introvert, it means you don't like people, you don't like public speaking, you don't like doing anything that's out there, that all you want to do with your life is just hide in a cave. And that could not be any more wrong. The biggest difference between introverts and extroverts is the way that we recharge our battery, so to speak, where we draw our energy from. Introverts, we get our energy from ourselves. Extrovert get their energies from other people, being around other people. So they love to be around other people all the time. Introverts, we like to be around other people, but when we're done, leave us alone. Leave us alone. We want to be by ourselves, And the thing that really made this so real and so clear for me is probably about, I can't remember how long ago it is now, maybe 10, 15 years ago, was the first time I came across Susan Cain. Was it 10 years ago? Yeah, probably about 10, at least between 10 and 15 years ago, came across Susan Cain's work. In fact, I heard a podcast, her TED Talk, called Quiet, the Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. I think that's what it was called anyway. And I remember listening to this TED Talk. At the time, I had no real concept of the whole introvert, extrovert thing. The phrases I'd heard thrown around, but I'd never really kind of took some time to think about it or even think of where I was on the scale, because as I said, I was just living life. But as a kid, I was quiet, my personality type was quiet. And initially it was labeled as shy. And actually, as I got older, I realized that there's a big difference between being quiet and shy. They are not the same thing. Introverts are not shy. Someone who is quiet is not shy. You can be an extrovert and be shy. Shyness is not an introvert thing. Shyness is actually a spirit of fear that you shouldn't have, that none of us should have. It's not a good thing, but having a quiet disposition, that is a good thing. That's a personality type. So it is not the same thing as shyness. So let's just be super clear on that. But anyway, so I've always known I'd had more of a quiet personality type and all of that, but I didn't know the word introvert, extrovert, etc. as in terms of the concept until I came across Susan Cain's work. And I listened to her podcast. I keep calling it podcast because I'm doing a podcast. I listened to her TED Talk and I actually cried. I cried because I was like, oh my gosh. For the first time, I felt not just understood, but I could understand myself. I could understand some of my personality traits and typically in the Western world, introvert personalities is kind of not exalted as high as extroverts. So in the classrooms, for example, you'd have the teachers kind of being like, oh, little Sally is so shy and so quiet, whereas, little Bobby is boisterous and loud and active. And it's like, that's a good thing. That's not a good thing. But in Eastern societies, it's the introversion, it tends to be valued more than extroversion. So it all depends on where you live. But I happen to live in a Western culture. So I kind of grew up thinking that being an introvert wasn't so much of a good thing, although I didn't know I was an introvert until I heard Susan Cain. And it's like, yes, that's what it is. That's what the word is. This is me. I totally get this. I was literally finished watching the TED Talk and went and ordered her book and read the whole thing cover to cover and absolutely loved it. Outside of the Bible, that was one of the most life-changing books I've ever read in terms of it really helped me to understand myself. And with that understanding came empowerment, because you need to understand yourself so you can be empowered to really kind of play to your strengths, and maximize your, and strengthen your weaknesses if need be, So I absolutely loved that. Read it understood it, and kind of started to just lean into this thing a whole lot more. Now, fast forward 10 plus years or whatever, here I am presenting this, doing this podcast, doing live videos, all of that kind of stuff. I get paid to speak. I've spoken to big audiences, small audiences, all of that kind of stuff. And I've loved every moment of it, but I'm still an introvert. I am absolutely still an introvert. So here's the thing. So what we're going to explore in this episode is how to be visible as an introvert, but we're going to bust some myths along the way. And hopefully if you're listening to this and you're an introvert, I really want to encourage you that you absolutely can be visible. You can be successfully visible. You can also be comfortably visible, because yes, there are times in life that we need to get out of our comfort zone, because your greatest growth lies outside of your comfort zone. But if you live in a place of continuous discomfort, you are not going to thrive as a person. You really are not. So I don't want you to be in a place where you're constantly living in discomfort. I want you to be in a place where you learn to step outside of your comfort zone and harness, some of the strengths of an introvert and use that in your visibility, but not to the extent where you're uncomfortable all the time, because that's just not going to work. Okay, so that's what we're going today. That's what we're going today. I want to help you. If you identify yourself as an introvert, I want to help you figure out how to do visibility on your own terms and in a way that works for you. All right. So let's bust some myth about visibility and loudness. Visibility, let's just put it this way. Visibility is not about, hey, look at me, let me be seen, By the way, I'm married to an extrovert, so I understand extroverts. And that's one of the things as well about introverts, because we love to study people and we're deep thinkers. We can accommodate people. I think a bit better than extroverts. Don't tell them, but But anyway, I'm married to an extrovert, so I understand that side of the coin as well. And we've kind of worked out over the years how to live peacefully, and borrow each other's strengths and compensate for each other's weaknesses, etc. Like, for example, if I'm going to a dinner party where I don't know anybody, it's like my husband needs to be there, because it's like I put him out there. You can go and do all the talking, and when I'm comfortable, I can join in, and it works, because he'll talk to anybody, and it's so great. But anyway, so invisibility isn't necessarily about being loud. It isn't necessarily about being seen. Hey, look at me, drawing attention. Visibility is essential if you have a message to share, if you have a purpose that you want to help to establish on earth, if you have a goal that you need people to know or understand. So whether it's you're running a business, and if you're running a business, chances are you started that business because there's a particular difference that you want to make, or there's a particular service you want to offer, a product you want to give people that will change their lives for the better in some way, right? You have got to be visible for people to be able to benefit from that. And again, if you're in a workplace and you don't have a business in, but you're an employee and you're in an organization, there are things that you're doing, or maybe you have a team. There are things that your team are doing that if you're not visible with it, your efforts won't be appropriately recognized, and also it won't reach people in the same way as if you're visible. So I'll give you an example, because outside of my LinkedIn coaching business, I also do communications consultancy. So I'm currently working with an organization whereby I have been brought in to specifically lift the visibility of the financial department. It's a pharmaceutical organization. I'm specifically working with the finance team within this organization to lift their visibility. And the reason is because there's so much good work that this finance team have done and have been doing along the years, but it is not seen and it's not understood by the rest of the business. So my job is to help the rest of the business to recognize and understand and value and appreciate the work of the finance team. So that's an example of how you can use visibility to reinforce the good that you're already doing. So visibility is not just a vanity metric. It's not just something that, oh, it's a nice to have if I've got time. Visibility is essential. If you have a message you want to promote, if you have achievements that you want to highlight, not just on your behalf, on behalf of your team, if you want to make an impact and a difference, you have got to start being visible. Whether you're an introvert and extrovert, the same rules apply. You have got to start being visible. So I want you to put aside in your head this idea that visibility, if you're just loud and you want to show off, which most introverts would be like, I'm out, because that's not how I roll, So that is not what visibility is about. Now, there are so many examples of women in the limelight who are visible, who have publicly said, listen, I'm visible, I'm top of my field or whatever, but I am also an introvert. You probably recognize some of the names: J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter author, Meryl Streep, the actress. There's Lady Gaga, the singer. And of course, there's Oprah Winfrey, one of the richest women in the world, who's built this billion-dollar empire, TV shows, all of that. And she's like, hey, I'm an introvert, so you can absolutely be an introvert and be visible and take it to a high level as well. All right. So what are some of the challenges then that introverts face with visibility? Now, in the course of my work, as I said, I coach women, introverts and extroverts, into being visible, both on LinkedIn and beyond, to advance your career and your business. So it's some of the challenges that I've heard time and time again fall into these categories. So the first one will be internal. So as an introvert, some of the internal challenges and struggles that you might identify with that introverts often face is that whole fear of being seen. The fear of being seen as self-promoting. So you don't want people to think you're just showing up. You don't want people to think, oh, look at her, there she is trying to be center of attention. Like, we introverts, we cringe at center of attention stuff. I don't want to ever be the life of the party. I will tell you that for a fact. That is not a goal or ambition anywhere on any introvert's list. We don't want to be the life of the party. We just about made it to the party, and that's good enough, So that fear of being seen as self-promoting is a barrier that can sometimes hinder introverts. And then there's the overthinking. It's because we're quite deep in our thoughts and we like to think, so there's that overthinking of, you're overthinking what will people think of me. You're overthinking your posts, for example. If you're showing up on LinkedIn, you're overthinking everything. You're overthinking that you're thinking about the fifth step and you haven't even taken the first step. So the overthinking can sometimes be a hindrance to stepping out into that visibility as an introvert. And of course, there's the perfectionism, but that's not just an introvert thing, really, but perfectionism of wanting everything to be just right. Again, some of it is rooted in, if it's not just right, then you might attract unwanted attention that you don't want. So it's like that perfectionism of, let me have everything just right before I start showing up, and showing up, not off, and being visible. Okay, so those are some of the internal challenges. Externally, there's in environment matters in terms of how you get the best out of yourself as an introvert. So sometimes, and a lot of, as I said, in Western society especially, a lot of the environments you find yourself in are environments that reward speaking over substance, being out there, being open. The person who talks the most in the meeting often gets heard, whereas the introvert can have something deep to contribute but might not feel comfortable to just volunteer the information, and therefore they don't get heard, So external environments really matter. By the way, on that note, I remember when open plan offices first became a thing. Oh my God, what a nightmare. This is, I don't know, how far back are we going now? At least a decade, right? Well, in my time, we went from working in offices type of thing, and now it's like everybody's in open plan. Open plan offices generally are nightmares for introverts. There is so much external stimulation, and you're never alone because there's a colleague there, there's a colleague here, there's a colleague here, there's a colleague there, and it's like, it's crazy. So I remember one of the jobs that I had, one of my comms roles, and when I was starting the job, the manager, the CEO, who was my direct manager, he's like, listen, we've got an office you can have a little office space on your own, or you can be in a main office with everybody else, which is open plan, So, what would you prefer? So, this is where the whole comfort zone versus discomfort thing comes into it. Like, you have to push yourself outside the comfort zone. Everything inside of me was like, oh my God, give me the solo office. Because I don't want to have to deal with people all the time and have to be constantly switched on. But somehow my mouth opened and said, I will take the open plan because I knew that was the right thing for me to do in order for me to grow in that moment and in that season. I needed to be in that space. It was so easy for me to have my own office door and lock the door, not lock the door, but close the door and be in my own space. But being in that open plan space for the work that I was called in to do was necessary. So I had to choose that being temporarily uncomfortable for the greater good of the role that I was called to. But open plan of offices are just, they're not great. They are not great. But anyway, so external environments. Sometimes external environments affect how we feel about being visible and showing up, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's in another role. So as an introvert, create a space that works for you. Let that be the primary space that you work from, most of the time. So if you're somebody who has to go in an office, for example, you're an employee and you have to go in that office, you have no choice but to go in the office, then even within that, carve out times in that office space where you go and have some solo time. Find the staff room or find the canteen or whatever it is. If you don't have that, then go out for a walk. But that solo time to recharge is absolutely necessary as an introvert, so we can have the energy to continue with the rest of our quest to be visible at work, in our business, or wherever it is. So like, for example, again, I personally think COVID was a massive blessing, for introverts in terms of introducing new ways of working for companies, because it is very possible for people to operate at their best and deliver good work remotely, so it is absolutely very possible. So COVID was great. Now companies are trying to default back to the 9 to 5 in the office, which I think is a massive disaster for many reasons, but that is a podcast for another time. Okay, so, and then as I said, we have internal challenges for visibility, you have external challenges, and then emotional challenges. That there's a lot of energy that it requires. I'm not gonna lie to you. Being visible requires energy. It requires you to put some energy out there, into what you're doing. So I get paid to speak. I've spoken, as I said, in many places, and it's like I absolutely love the speaking. But when I'm done, because I've used so much energy, I don't want to talk to anybody when I get off the stage. No, I don't want to stick around and network for another half an hour. I want to go home, or at least go somewhere solo where I can recharge my batteries, because I've just spent a lot of energy. The same happens when I go into work, hybrids. I work hybrid at the moment when I have to go into the office. When I come home, I am absolutely wasted. It's like I've used all my energy interacting with people all day. So now I just need to recharge on my own. So my husband and my kids, they know, give mommy some mommy time. I still do mommy stuff and wife stuff, but at some point, my first need when I get home is I need to recharge on my own, so because I've used so much energy. So as an introvert, it's really important that you learn how you recharge your batteries and set up your external and internal environments to help you perform at your best. If your job requires you, for example, to be constantly switched on 5 days a week in the office, meetings all day long, you will burn out, because that is not how you're designed to function as an introvert. It's not how you get the best out of yourself. So make sure that you create an external environments as much as possible, and definitely internal environments, and put in those times and spaces for you to recharge your battery so you can be your best for everyone else around you. Okay, so yeah, that's just some of the challenges with being an introvert. Now, in terms of visibility, what is visibility really about when it comes to being an introvert? Well, as I already said, it's not about being loud. It's about being known for your value, for the value that you bring, not for being known for being loud. So you have so much to contribute. You have so much to contribute, whether that's your skills, your experience, your expertise, your life experience, lived experience, as it's called. You have so much to contribute that somebody else can benefit from. You have value. And unless you start sharing that value through being visible, other people won't be able to benefit from it. And I'll tell you this, the growth that you experience when you start being visible is phenomenal. You will grow like nothing else when you start putting your thoughtful content out there. So this can look like really showing up on LinkedIn, rightful, thoughtful posts or blogs, on platforms like LinkedIn. This could look like speaking up in meetings, So if you're part of a meeting at work and you've been invited as part of that meeting and there's something that you have to contribute, please make a point to always speak up in meetings, not just to say something for the sake of it, but if you have something to say, just consider it like life or death. If I don't say this, then this project isn't gonna go according to plan, or consider the wider impact of you not speaking when you struggle with that thing, or should I speak up or should I not? But speaking up in meetings is an important way to be visible and also to communicate the value that you have, because speaking is actually a tool that we use to communicate our value. We need to speak, you need to be heard. So visibility will involve an element of speaking as well as writing and other ways, but definitely speaking. You can also look at another way of visibility, and what that could also look like is strategic relationships, building one-to-one relationships. If you're not as comfortable building relationships in groups, build one-to-one relationships. And then, if you get to know people one-to-one and then as a group, then you know everybody and you're more comfortable. So build one-to-one relationships strategically. And then, of course, create content, commit to being a content creator, somebody who finds a way, an outlet to share your thoughts with the world, whether that's through speaking, through blogs, through a combination of all of them, through internal stuff in the organization. If you're in an organization and there's an internal comms team and they're asking for volunteers, for a comms piece, put your hand up, raise your hand, be seen, be visible. That kind of stuff can open the pathway to opportunities, promotions, all of that stuff within your work environment. So do that. Externally, it can open the door. If you're somebody who has a business, and you're visible externally, it can open the doors for your business to go to new places, for new opportunities. I've traveled to new countries on speaking engagements based on my visibilities. People have invited me to places that I never would have had on my list to go to, but these opportunities have come because I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna hide, I'm gonna be visible, and I'm gonna share what I know, and that absolutely opens the door. Okay, let's round off and close up with some real practical strategies in terms of introvert-friendly ways to be visible. So you're thinking at this point, okay, Mildred, I'm with you. I'm convinced. I have value as an introvert. I understand I'm an introvert and I love it. It's a superpower. It is a superpower, not because you're an introvert. It's a superpower when you tap into how you were created by God, whether that's being an introvert or being an extrovert. But when you tap into how you're wired and you use that as strength, that becomes a superpower, because it can help you navigate the world in a way where you are at your best and contributing your best. So here are some practical ways that you can be that you can be visible as an introvert. So the first thing is kind of choose a platform where you can continuously put out content. I would highly recommend LinkedIn, obviously, and I specialize in LinkedIn visibility coaching because I believe LinkedIn as a platform is an absolutely great platform to build your thought leadership as a professional, share your expertise with the world, and attract opportunities. So I would highly recommend LinkedIn as the platform of choice, so pick a platform like LinkedIn and commit to showing up regularly on a platform like that. What does regularly look like? You can start with once a week, but don't stay there. You can start with once a week, but don't stay once a week. And then kind of just share regularly things that you're learning, how you're growing, things that you've learned in the past. Just share these things out, put it out with the audience. I guarantee you it's going to help at least one person when you do this consistently. All right, so pick a platform, prepare. Now, as introverts, we generally don't like to be put on the spot. We like to have time to prepare. So if you tell me now, okay, Mildred, in half an hour, I want you to do a whole seminar on LinkedIn. I can do that. I can do that without much preparation because I've been talking about LinkedIn for at least, I don't know, 5 years plus, on a regular basis. So I know it in and out, back of my mind. I've talked about it from all angles. But if you tell me, Mildred, in half an hour, I want you to prepare a talk about, I don't know, I don't know. We'll give some really random example, like why birds are vital to society. Oh my God, the most random example ever, but it's where my mind went, right? I could not tell you anything. I would be put on the spot. I'd be frozen. And probably will be the same for a lot of people, right? But with preparation, even if it's a topic I don't know that much about, you have that confidence when you prepare ahead of time that, okay, I'm prepared. At least I can speak sensibly about this topic, even if it's something I'm not an expert in. But preparation allows you to kind of gather all of those internal thoughts of what am I going to say? Am I going to sound stupid? What will people think of me? Gather them and put them together in a place where it's like, all right, I know my stuff. I know what I'm talking about. Now I can focus on the audience and really getting a communicating value to them in this presentation that I'm about to do. So make sure that you prepare. Um, Batch and schedule. So when it comes to content creation, again, we're going back to LinkedIn. Make sure that, so it's so much easier. Again, we're talking energy levels. Use your energy and to batch content as much as possible. So I kind of generally on a weekly basis, I jot down ideas throughout the week on things I might want to talk about on LinkedIn. And then once a week on a Saturday or Sunday, I go through all of them and then I create my posts for the week ahead. So I'm never trying to create posts on the day. It's always in advance. I've prepared in advance. I've put it in advance. I've used all my energy. The stress of trying to create content on the day is a stress that I don't want anybody to have. And as an introvert, it drains your energies in ways that you'd rather be using for something else. So be ahead, schedule, prepare, plan your content ahead. Use your voice your way. Use your voice in the way that works best for you. Now, I've said that speaking is absolutely important for visibility. So I'm not going to say to you, don't worry about speaking, only write. If writing is your predominant form of communication, absolutely do that. But also look at incorporating speaking, incorporating video, because these are powerful ways to build connections with your audience as you put your thoughts out there. So remember, it's that whole thing of we want to come out of our comfort zone, but we don't want to go all the way into the living in discomfort, because that does no good for you or anybody else. So as you're doing all of this, the final thing is to remember to protect your energy. So create a rhythm that works for you, a visibility rhythm that works for you. Also scheduling rest times in between where you need to just switch off. Whether it's switch off just from the tech front or switch off in the real world as well. But make sure that you build in regular switch off times for yourself as an introvert. If you're constantly switched on, you will absolutely burn out. And that's not what I want for you. And I'm sure that's not what you want for yourself. So protect your energy. Lastly, just as we run this up, I really, really want to just emphasize again that so being visible as an introvert is not about changing who you are or trying to. I've heard people say things like channeling my inner extrovert and all of that. It's like you don't need to channel an inner extrovert or whatever. You can absolutely still be visible as an introvert, but just work to your strengths, work to your energy rhythms, be aware of it, and make sure that you protect your energy in the way you show up and how you're visible. You don't need to change yourself. You absolutely have massive value and contribution to make as you are, as the introvert that you are, and God's made you that way for a reason, and it's that character attribute is perfect for the people you're called to serve and the work that you're called to do. It's just about embracing it, learning to harness the strengths, and learning to, where needed, work on the weaker parts of it, as I said, like stepping out of your comfort zone, but really understanding that the way you have been created is absolutely valuable for the purpose that you are called to. So let's end on that. The world needs you. The world needs your voice. The world needs you to stand up, to stop hiding and start being visible, even as an introvert. No, I'm going to change that, especially as an introvert, because it's not something that we tend to volunteer for. I'm encouraging you to, starting today, please volunteer for this. We need to hear your voice just as much as we need to hear the extroverts in society. So we're going to leave it there. And I would love to absolutely hear from you. I want you to think about, from everything that I've shared, what's the biggest takeaway for you? What's the one small visibility action that you can take this week that feels good to you, as a result of this? What can you do? What little step can you do this week? Please do share that with me. I would love that. Either send me a message on DM on any one of the platforms. LinkedIn is my preferred platform, but I am also on the other one. So just find me at Mildred Talabi and share it with me. If you have my email address, feel free to email me there as well. And of course, if you want to get in contact with me, if you're like, Mildred, I do want to be more visible. I'm an introvert. I want to be more visible, but I need help. Then I would absolutely love to have that conversation with you. I do coach women, female leaders, business owners in this space on being visible, whether it's for that specific goal that you're looking for in your career, in your business. And that includes rewriting your LinkedIn profile, really getting your brand message out there so you speak to the world in a way that is comfortable for you and that is in tune and in line with who you are and the message you want to share. So if that sounds like something that you want to explore a little bit more, get in touch with me. You can find all my details on my website, startbeinvisible.com, as well as resources, including my weekly Visible Woman newsletter, where I share weekly strategies that will help you master the art of visibility on LinkedIn, in your career, in your business. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, please do rate, like it, subscribe, share, and of course, let me know as well. And I will see you next week. Take care.